It's not a law. He can't tell you what to put on your face. He can't tell you what to put on your body. He can't do any of that under his emergency governing powers that he has right now. He is simply doing what bullies do the world over. How far he can push us until we push back. And peacefully and patriotically, we are going to start pushing back. We're pulling our kids out of schools. We're not wearing masks. We're coming to events like this. We're having massive amounts of protests. We're doing sign waving, and we're showing him that we will not comply with this. And all of us that are out here tonight, we all know a bunch of friends and family that they couldn't be out here tonight, or maybe they just don't feel like getting engaged in something that could be controversial. But it's incumbent upon all of us to reach out to them and make sure that they're a part of this movement. And it's really key to make sure they are registered to vote. The left has been able to install these political leaders, these political systems, because the left does a great job of political engagement. They reach out to people because really politics to them and control, it's their religion and it's their family. On the right, we have our God, we have our faith, and we have our families, and that's what we've spent our time building, and that's great. But it's kind of gotten us to where we are right now with politics. And the left has all this machinery built, and it's closing in on us because they know they don't have control of us because we are still very independent people. Thank God we still have a Second Amendment. Take a look at Australia, what's going on right now in Australia. So Australia, they're like our American Australia. We're like the cousins that broke away from the Brits, right? Pretty much the same system. In the late 90s, the Australians had a bad mass shooting, and they pretty much got rid of personal firearms. Now it's a disarmed citizenry. And their government, because when people get power, they get power drunk. That's the nature of the system. That's why our founders are so genius. Their government got power drunk, and now they're using their military to go out and enforce these COVID lockdowns in the most draconian way possible. If you haven't seen that, I encourage you to take a look at that. It's very dark, and it shows us exactly why we can never give up our guns. Because thank God our government is still scared enough right now not to lock us down to that degree. But if we don't start resisting, we don't start coming out like we're coming out now tonight, and we don't start electing actual leaders that are going to go and push back against everything the status quo, everything the left, everything that rhino Republicans like Jamie Herrera Butler are trying to shove down our throats, we will lose this country. But I know we're not because of the crowd that's out here tonight. I'm absolutely honored to be here with you, to be a part of this movement. I don't want to take up too much time because I know there's some really important things to get to as far as the action piece, how we're going to get to it. Just want to tell everybody I have been extremely honored by all the support I've gotten throughout the district, but especially here in Lewis County. That's reflected to getting some of the biggest endorsements that I've been able to achieve so far. I was recently endorsed by our true governor, Loren Culp. And thank you. And then yesterday, I had the honor of being endorsed by our true president, Donald Trump. You guys are actually the first big group I've told minus social media, so I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be a part of this. I want to support in any way I can. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn over the mic, and let's take our country back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kent. All right, we have one more speaker tonight. Just kind of give you an idea of how this is going to look moving forward. We have Ray Reynolds, who is candidate for Clark County Sheriff. So he came up to visit us a couple counties north. After that, kind of the meat and potatoes of the night is really figuring out a way to kind of support the community around religious exemptions, how to draft those. We have a lot of people on hand and a lot of information on hand. So after Mr. Reynolds speaks, we're going to kind of go in to more of a workshop-based foundation for the rest of the evening. So, but nevertheless, Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you. I want to tell you that this is one of the best things we can do if we truly want to stand up for who we are. That we are Americans first. We are not going to comply with these draconian, awful laws that are being passed. We have to stand up. My brother just came out and told you that this is where we are right now. Can any of you believe that we would be here today asking the question whether or not I'm going to be forced to have to take vaccine into my veins? Whether I'm going to lose my job if I don't do as the government tells me? Whether I'm going to be fired from my job if I don't do exactly as they say, meaning sign away my rights as a United States citizen, my constitutional rights. You would say, Ray, you've got to be kidding me. That is not happening. It is happening. Do you know? And I'm going to cover this first and I'm going to do it quickly. Your officers, statewide, not just in Vancouver, not just in Olympia, not just in Spokane, statewide, your officers that are protecting you have been ordered by the state that you will sign this document allowing us access to your multimedia. You will sign it or be fired. Do you accept that? I don't accept it. Those are my brothers and my sisters. How dare you tell me I need to sign away my constitutional rights, the rights guaranteed by my forefathers, my father, my grandfather, those that fought for me, died for me. My uncle died. He was one of the frozen chosen. He fought for my rights. How dare you tell me that I must sign them away or lose my job? I will not comply. Hopefully, this will be taken away. I heard rumors today that perhaps the Criminal Justice Training Commission, who is going to be has tasked to make us sign this document, which many officers have already signed out of fear, that it may go away. I haven't confirmed that. But let us pray, and I would ask that each of you would pray that that would go away immediately. Also, I have one other thing I want to cover. Numerous laws, I call them the dirty dozen laws that were passed by our legislature. These laws are the kind of laws that have caused you to be less safe. Your police officers that are out there every day putting their lives on the line so that you can sleep at night. They have been told that you cannot enforce the laws. Want to get a quick example? Say there's a bank robbery. They describe the bad guy as 6'8", wears a cowboy hat, it weighs 300 pounds, and wearing a red shirt and a cowboy hat. He runs down towards the officer. We see him. Normally, you and I would say we stop him, right? Looks like the guy, right? Pretty good idea. That's the guy that robbed the bank. Right now, right this minute, if an officer sees what I just described to you, he cannot stop that person and detain him. Did you hear what I told you? He cannot stop that person. You go, that's impossible, Officer Reynolds. That is not going to happen, and it's not happening here in Washington State. Well, it is. Your officers are underneath. We have to do what's called probable cause as opposed to reasonable suspicion. That means we cannot prove that he's the guy that did it right off the bat. Your officers are being reduced to something that they cannot defend you. My friends, I ask that you would support your sheriff. Your sheriff is your only hope in these awful days to support your constitutional rights. He does or she does not answer to the mayor. He does not answer to Lord Inslee. He does not answer to anybody but to you. So if your sheriff, you support him or her, that she will support your Constitution and fight for you. I would love to talk longer, but I'm not going to, because the most important thing is that we have to do what I'm going to have to do right now, too. I've been told that now they're going to require officers to also get the shot. Every officer in the state. Statewide. You will either get it or lose your job. And they are forcing it down our throats, and it may be before October 31st. Let us hope that doesn't happen. So I'm going to say what the truth of the matter is. Insofar as I'm concerned, I will not comply. My constitutional rights protect me. And in my religious beliefs, I will not take poison into my veins. Lastly, I want to say thank you again. My name is Ray Reynolds. Ray Reynolds, spelled R-E-Y. I am running for the Clark County Sheriff, and I'm going to win.
Thank you, Ray Reynolds. All right, everybody. So the meat and potatoes of why we are here tonight. I really want to impress this upon everybody. We started Medical Freedom Lewis County kind of under the guise that we're a fellowship of community members who gather weekly to be effective, to be foot soldiers of God, and to actually unite and not just be a Facebook platform or a social media forum. And we actually want to be able to give people some actionable tools and some real, live, living, breathing documents so they continue to take this fight to their employers and to their congressional leaders and legislators. So one of the things that we're going to do tonight, and probably really, like I said, the meat and potatoes, is there are a lot of people here that are curious about religious exemptions, right? I know that K-12 educators, state workers, and a lot of healthcare workers do have this option of a religious exemption. And we talked about it. I talked about it at the state capitol. I've kind of preached on it a little bit, and it's one of those things where we're seeing the landscape rapidly change on what the legal foundation and the viable way of getting these exemptions within the scope of possibility. I will tell you this: these exemptions are not drafted and or given by your HR departments so that they can be granted to you, okay? They're being written in such a way that is meant to entrap you into making statements that are medical or philosophical. In Washington State, we do not have a personal or philosophical exemption. So you can see in the way that they're worded, and that, I don't know if just by a show of hands, who's gotten some type of HR document from the state, their medical. Okay, great. So it looks like about 75, 80% of us. It's titled Full Response Request to State HR Form Provided. This could mean your school district as well, be your medical provider. We know that the questions are different amongst every HR department, but I have included ones that were included on the Department of Corrections form, and I've seen it echoed by like enterprises, Department of Labor. So just know that these are kind of the standard questions that are being asked, right? One of the things that's important, and as you read through this, you'll notice that we are going to object to the way that these questions are asked and to providing a substantive answer in regards to some of this. So the legal foundation and the basis for this is the Title 7 Civil Rights Act of 1964, Article 1 of the Washington State Constitution, Section 2, 3, 8, and 11, and then RCW 4960030. We don't want to go into the weeds and stray off into no man's land and create an exemption that can be dismissed or denied, okay? So we're going to use our legal foundation of the Civil Rights Act and be really simple. I've seen so many documents out there that are being spread around that are adversarial. Remember, your HR department wants you to be pleasant, okay? I think people want to take this constitutional adversarial fight and at the end of the day, there's nobility in that because it shows you're strong. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we're being accommodating and able to negotiate with our employer, right? We need to be able to come to the table and negotiate a reasonable accommodation for our exemption. We need to be pleasant. We need to be civil. And we need to be warm and compelling, right? Because if we're using a religious argument or religious exemption, we need to be compelling and walk with conviction and walk with truth and not be adversarial. So a couple of things that I do want to point in here is you'll notice in reference to many of the questions that are asked, I really want you to just read through these documents and kind of just meditate on them and know that these are templates. This is a way of giving you information. I don't expect you to use this wording, verbiage verbatim. Really put it into your own heartfelt, convicted words, right? Just know that what I've given you and what has been passed out and distributed is your legal foundation. I don't think there's any wrong or right way to write these, but we've pretty much closed the doors towards any manipulation or any kind of tomfoolery, so to speak, with these forms. One of the things that's really important too, your HR departments, especially for the state, they've been working on civil liberties with LGBTQ and issues pertaining to gender transition That's been at the forefront of a lot of training for our HR departments. So you'll notice some of the verbiage in here is really being able to establish that religious exemptions are protected class 2. So you'll see some examples in there. For instance, one of the examples that I kind of wanted to note here is if a Washington State employee was seeking a Title VII accommodation for the cabinet agency for gender reassignment or gender transition, it would be unlawful to ask the employee, have you previously identified of other genders or sexualities, right? That would be a overstatement, and that would be a question that would be completely unlawful to ask. So asking the heart and soul of your religious convictions, how long you've had them, all those type of things are just completely an overreach, and they know this. Okay, they know this, but they're kind of looking for you to hang yourself. And so you'll notice in the documents, and that's why I want you to give you a second to review them with your family. We're going to be going into breakout sessions. You'll notice some tables in the back here. So, like I said,
Your mic's off.
Keep going. One of the speakers is still on.
there it goes. All right, sorry about that. So, like I said, meat and potatoes. This is religious exemption. Make sure that you review it and ask plenty of questions. In the crowd right now, or next to the stage, who feels versed and equipped to answer questions in regards to religious exemptions? I know there's a handful of people here, so kind of scan the crowd and see that there's people here ready and willing to do that for you. Okay, you're not alone. I can answer these questions for you. Like I said, there's no right or wrong answers. It's just best practice. Okay, legal foundation. That's what we're looking for. Additionally, we're going to have some breakout sessions regarding writing your legislators and your congressional leaders. We have a letter template for an emotional appeal, a letter template for a rational appeal. This is so you can actually reach out and make sure that all the people that are representing you who are elected in the state are getting their email boxes bombed with letters, right? That's what we're going to do to create some congressional change here. And then also a document that's been circulating quite often and frequently that I've noticed since about the start of the week is a constructive notice and warning to all Washington State employers. Notice to principal is notice to all agents, and notice to agents is not a notice to all principals. So that's just grab that document as well. It's basically just kind of informing our employers that they are, not able to give medical advice or act under the authority of being a medical doctor unless they're licensed. Additionally, not being able to impose any type of legal advice without, being able to practice law. So they've overstepped in a couple ways there. One of the most important things today, while we're all here, is fellowship. Right? We're here. We have some documents in our hand. We have some strategies moving forward. But the strength of this group is being the presence of each other and being a fellowship organization, supporting each other. A lot of us are scared, and I think they're counting on us being siloed and not having outlets to be able to speak with each other and get to know each other. So there is a wealth of resources here. Okay. So there's medical professionals. If you're a medical professional or work in the medical field and can answer questions regarding the efficacy and the safety of vaccines, can you please raise your hand? Okay, I don't know if there's any. Oh, we got a few back there. So if you're just kind of wondering, like, hey, I want to have some, informed choice or informed consent questions answered about the vaccine itself, those questions can be answered here. Again, invoking our medical and religious exemptions is really at the forefront of what we're trying to do tonight. Now, your medical exemptions, we are not prepared to give medical advice, so we implore you to reach out to your primary care physician or find one that's willing to write you an exemption. I know that there's some ailments that would exclude you from getting this vaccine. I know that if you do have anaphylaxis, that seems to be the one medical argument that's holding up quite solidly from what I'm hearing. So, like I said, get to know people. This is a fellowship organization. We are strength in numbers, okay? That's really the only potency that we have. We've been backed into a corner and given a mandate that the likes of our generation has never seen. And we have to have a response that's something that the governor and that our state leadership has never seen. And I guarantee you, they'd be shocked to see this many people in a field in Adna trying to fight for their medical freedoms. Okay, so I give you all a huge round of applause. I talked a little bit about it last week. We got to be bold. We got to be able to take risks. We got to be okay to feel uncomfortable. Okay, we've been placed in a position where we're going to have to make some sacrifices and be in the spirit of not being completely comfortable and having our futures predictable like they have been. I think that's part of state employment, right? Is you're 20 or 30 in the chair, you get your benefits, your retirement, and it's a pretty predictable career field. So I don't think that they anticipated our population being able to step into something that we haven't known and be uncomfortable. So just know there's going to be some suffering. Suffering is okay, okay? I said it last week. Our generations have had no great wars and no great depressions, okay? So now you got something to fight for. And I really want to impress that upon you. And I see all these kids back here, guys. See them all back there playing on the hay bales? Can you imagine if they inherited a world where forced medical procedures were the MO, the standard, and they got to look forward to transitioning into adulthood and having all these impositions placed on them, but it was normal because their parents didn't stick up and fight, their grandparents didn't stick up and fight, and just know that you're protecting these little ones out here too, and you're leaving the world a better place than when you entered it, okay? One last thing I want to say before I, get into what we actually need to do tonight is these exemptions. I gave you a template. It works. It has legal foundation. But if it's a sincerely held religious belief, guys, it needs to be sincerely articulated. Like if you can't come up with the words, sit in prayer, mull over it, find the right words. It doesn't matter what religion. But if you're using a template and mass-produced materials online, or using, a letter that you saw circulating, like it's going to be really easy to make the argument that that's not sincerely held. Okay, so it really has to be to the depth and soul of who you are, what your convictions are, and you need to be able to stand by these convictions and also know that your employer may be inquiring or asking questions for follow-up or clarification, and you might have to stand behind these beliefs, stand in them convicted, stand in them strong, and be able to articulate them both verbally and in writing further. Because people are probably going to ask you about these, okay? Your HR department are not clergy. They're not, fellowship or faith-based leaders for the most part. They're probably not going to understand a lot of what you're laying down. So just know there might be some clarification. One of the things before I go ahead and put the mic down, if they are asking follow-up clarification questions, your HR department, or asking you to have an interview, make sure that you get your employer to consent to that interview being recorded. If they refuse to allow that to be recorded, ask for the interview questions to be given to you in writing and answer them only in writing. I have heard 2 or 3 times within the last 24 hours that people have used this strategy from a state employment perspective, and their HR departments have failed to get back to them, have basically ignored the scheduled meeting, and I believe are seeking legal counsel right now when people are asking those questions. So remember, they don't have it figured out. They don't know what they're doing. I mean, I've gotten 3 different forms from my employer. It changes weekly. I've seen deadlines. I've seen deadlines extended. Just know that the strength in our preparation and our legal foundation right here is not arguments that they're really prepared to take on. And with some very simple case law and with our Title VII Civil Rights Act, I mean, you guys, we have the legal high ground here. Okay, so feel confident in that. And other than that, like I said, get to know people. People who can help one more time, whether it's with exemptions or anything, raise your hand one more time, just so we know who you are when we start breaking in. Take a look around you, ask questions, and again, we thank you all for being here, and God bless you all.
Okay, so I just wanted to announce a couple things. One, you are here with your spouse or significant other, And you have extra forms that both of you could take one form home. We didn't have enough to hand out, so we may have folks that don't have the form. So with that being said, that's going to kind of go the same with some of these other examples at some of our work tables. The notaries, if you could head back toward the back tables, I'll be out there in a minute. Okay, so back there we have extra forms. And I also wanted to mention that we're going to try and upload these online. Also, our email address is
Email address, real quick, is Medical Freedom Lewis County, all one word, Medical Freedom Lewis County at protonmail.com. Medical Freedom Lewis County, protonmail.com. I did fail to mention the notaries. Thank you so much for being here, Notary Publics. Some employers and HR departments are asking for a notarized religious exemption request. Some aren't. I think it's pretty safe to just go ahead and do it and have the document in your back pocket in case you need it. So there are people here to notarize forms for you. The more official that we appear, and the more our I's are dotted and T's are crossed, I think that's a compelling way of moving forward with our employers. So again, I apologize for not mentioning the notary. And Angie, you can have your mic back.
all right, guys, just kind of mingle. We'll get set up here, and then we'll just have you kind of form lines if you want to come and see what's on our tables. Don't forget to visit Joe Kent. He's got his tent there as well, and show support to him. That's amazing. And if you have any questions, we'll be out in the crowd. We'll do our very best to answer any questions you have. Thank you so much for coming. If you need forms, go to the file section. Thank you.
You want to certify that?
It's fine. I'll tell people. Yes. Yeah, he's gonna run these.
Yeah, or my parents. So I think they're Washington, so if you go to Washington, there's a lady there that's trying to and so permanent Washington, but in the Lewis County